Hello everybody, what is up? My name is Zero Solstice, and today, as per the request of some of my guild members, I'm just throwing together this quick video of the Aakman Temple layout, the different rotations, and where the value might be in trying to grind Aakman Temple in 2019. So, as a foray, I'll be talking generally about Aakman, while in the background you will be seeing more or less a generalized tour of the place, as well as labels for the individual spaces that are more or less considered average rotations. So right now you can see on the left side of the screen the text blue room / water room. That refers to this space that you see right now, and there will be a few more like that moving forward. But let's just get right into the action. So why would you grind here in 2019? Well, it has been, and probably will remain for a very long time, one of the most effective places to grind for cash on higher gear scores. It has a very strong loot table. It's worth a decent amount of experience. It's not terribly busy. It's just a great place to grind if you need cash. And it scales extremely well with loot scrolls, Arsha buff, any other possible loot buffs you might be trying to run. So, having said that, how do you get around Aakman Temple, and what rotations are good for what? Well, Aakman Temple is great in that it is a cylinder, effectively, a cylindrical staircase with a bunch of individual rooms branching off at different points going up the staircase. So it's very easy to get around, unlike Histria, where you actually have to walk from one side to the other. You just walk up the stairwell until you find the floor that you care about, and you're good to go. That's about it. The different rotations in Aakman are on different levels and different assortments of these rooms, and they're more or less separated by what gives them their value. So the general rotations that you'll be seeing in this video would be the Elite rotation and 3-room rotation, which is being shown on the screen right now, the Blue Room or Water Room rotation that was shown just earlier, and coming up the Top Room and Drop Down Extension rotation. So the Elite rotation and the 3-room rotation are valuable because they have the greatest density of the mob that drops black shards, which would be the Elite Guardians. They're basically the really fat Div looking bros. They are the only mob in Aakman that drop black shards, and they drop it at a rate of 0.03%, which is really low, but it'll add up over time as you put more and more time into the grind, whatever. Moving on. The Red Shard complement to the Black Shard comes from Aakman Airbenders and has a much higher drop rate at 0.075. It's more than double. It's 2.5 times the drop rate. So over time, you'll find that you'll just stockpile far more Red Shards than Black Shards, which is cool because that effectively means that without even trying, every Black Shard that you actually get to drop for you will basically just immediately equate to a Tungrud Earring, which is awesome. Tungrud Earrings drop, as far as I am aware, only from Elite Watchers, Elite Guardians, regular Watchers, and Punishers. So the drop rate for those isn't terribly known, but I mean, it's a yellow accessory. You should expect it, honestly, between every 2 to 5 hours with average luck and on versus off a loot scroll. I want to say that I average an earring probably once every 2.5 hours. And that's either through an actual earring drop or through a Black Shard. I just kind of conflate the two together since they more or less equate themselves. But the Elite rotation is good because it has more or less the highest concentration of the Guardians, the Elite Guardians, which drop Black Shards. On top of that, it also can be turned into what is known as the 3-room rotation. And the 3-room rotation is great because it's almost impossible to overclear the rotation. No matter how hard you try, no matter how hard you buff, you could probably have 290 AP. You're still not even going to come close to overclearing the entire rotation. So it's basically just an absolute skill gear cap on being able to grind Aakman no matter what. You can have as much gear as you want. You'll always be able to find a spot in Aakman that will continue to have value for you because you will never be able to finish clearing that rotation. It'll always be on respawn for you. Top Room and Drop Down Extension, which is currently on the screen, is good because it's a very simple rotation to perform. It's just this one small square space that's pretty tightly packed with mobs. and it's basically the best place to go for just raw trash loot. I want to say that if I average 6,900 to 700 or to 7,000 trash loot in Blue Room on a loot scroll, I average between 7,150 and 7,300 up here in the top room. The big difference, however, is that in top room, it is actually possible to overclear. And once you start to overclear, that's when you achieve a hard cap, where no matter how hard you try, you change your buffs up, whatever, doesn't matter, you're not going to get any more trash loot. So that is where the drop-down extension comes in, which is the room that you come through, where you literally climb through the ceiling or drop down through the ceiling to get to the top room. So what people will do is they will extend by clearing out top room and then going into the drop-down space and clearing that out, and then going back into top room. How I don't die to this fall, I don't know. Don't ask me. It's BDO. We play a great game. The blue room, or as I like to call it, or the water room, as I have heard other people call it, is my personal favorite rotation. So after the respawn changes, it is very hard to clear this room like on respawn, at which point it doesn't have the issues that top room has, where you begin over clearing it and hard capping yourself on trash. On top of that, it's very similar to top room in just that it's one small rectangular space that you just don't really have to leave. It's just one single room and you're self-contained and you're good to go. And on top of that, it's a very nice mix between top room's trash value and the elite rotation's just mix of valuable mob types. So in blue room, you've got a good mix of the punishers, the elite guardians, and all of the other ads that go on top of that, which just makes it a very nice, well-rounded location to just grind out. It's my personal favorite rotation, but every class has their own personal preferences. So if you're, say, a witch or a wizard, you might prefer the 3-room rotation because you're able to pull more ads in a single pull, given the increased aggro limit that's given to you by Lighthouse and by your pet. You might prefer 3-room, where you're able to bounce from one room to another after pulling in larger fat pulls, so that you can just maintain your pull size without bothering like different spaces of your room or needing to waste time cleaning up smaller ads or what have you. As something like a lawn, top room or blue room might be better for you because things are tighter to the walls. The packs are a bit larger, but not quite as large as someone like a witch or a wizard might care about, which just means it's really easy for us to use all of our CC and not worry too much about sending everything flying away, but still being able to perform all of our desirable damage combos. So on screen right here, we're going to be showing just an average rotation in the blue room of what it would look like to corral the ads, CC them, use proper down attacks, so on and so forth. So for actually dealing with Aakman mobs, probably the most important thing to understand is that the majority of the Aakman mobs, with the exception of Watchers and Punishers, can actually be knocked down, which means that your best pulls will involve properly managing your CC and your down attack damage while maintaining a tight stack so that the things that don't get knocked down continue to get back attacked. And even if you do knock things down, they don't go too far outside of your stack, and you can just maintain a quick DPS of the entire stack to be able to move from pack to pack at as fast a rate as possible. Apart from everything that we've talked about up to this point, the only remaining generalized information that I can really talk about is just buffing. And no matter what your class is, the buffs are pretty much going to be the same. For food, after the cron meal changes, there really isn't any reason not to run one. You can either run Exquisite or you can run Energizing. There really isn't a major difference between the two, although you can probably make the case where Exquisite is better for you if your class doesn't abuse down attacks as hard as some other classes might. But generally speaking, they're both relatively the same performance, so whatever your preference is. For elixirs, Giant Draft is pretty much all you really need unless you choose to do your own personal elixir rotation. I personally do my own elixirs since I make some of my own, and it's just cheaper. Even if it does take a little more effort to pop every 15 minutes, who cares, whatever. The elixirs I personally use would be Shock, Brutal Carnage, Fury, Will, and Draining. And the reason is because it's just a good mix of, in my opinion, what makes all of the drafts as good as they are, whether it's the healing on hit that you get, the damage reduction that you get, or the specific damage buffs that you get from them. And even if it gives most of the same buffs, it's still cheaper. So I just opt for the route of using my own drafts, or my own elixirs, excuse me. And there are plenty of other elixirs you can use. You could also use Demi-Human. You could use something a little bit more eclectic, such as Brutal Death. You can mix and match. You don't even need to use 5 elixirs. You can drop it down to 4, 3, 2. Like, you could, depending on your class, you could probably get away with just running Fury and Demi-Human, in all honesty. And you could just make your elixir rotation extremely cheap. But that's up to you in how efficient you want to be, what your gear allows you to do, so on and so forth. Outside of that, all that's left is just Villa buffs. And you're in the desert. I mean, come on, you are in the desert at Aakman Temple. It shouldn't be hard for you to get a Villa scroll. And there's plenty of places inside of the temple to put a tent. Villa buffs are more or less the easiest thing you can do these days to just get very potent and effective buffs for increasing the efficiency of your grind. And considering your location, there's really no reason you shouldn't get them. So just get them. Do yourself a favor and just get them. Outside of that, that covers just about all of the generalized information involving what it means to grind Aakman, what the different rotations are as of the summer of 2019. I hope this information was useful to you. My name is Zero Solstice, and as always, have a wonderful day.